Hey there everybody, it's markcrilley. I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to be doing a comparison between realistic eyes, here on the left, and manga style eyes on the right. Now, to make it a meaningful comparison, I've decided to make both of the illustrations the exact same width. So it's about 9 centimeters from side to side. That comes out to 3.5 inches. And this lower line here is going to be used for lining up the lower eyelashes of all of the eyes. So I'm going to begin by putting in just a couple of basic guidelines to show us the width and the basic size of all of the eyes. Alright, so you can see right from the get-go that the realistic eyes are not nearly as tall as the manga-style eyes. That's one of the major differences in terms of the basic structure. Notice that the space between the two eyes is equal to about the width of one eye, and that really holds true for even the manga-style eyes in this illustration. Well, I'm going to refocus the camera here over on the left so that we can get into drawing some basic guidelines of the realistic eyes. Alright, so I've got the basic shapes in here, and these eyes are sort of turned at a slightly three-quarter point of view, and that's why the shape ends up different here, and you're going to see more of the eyelashes. This whole area will get much more refined later on, but I wanted you to see the basics of, well, one thing that I've noticed is that the sort of almond shape of the eye comes very near to midway point on the rectangle here, but the tear duct is considerably lower, much closer to the bottom, so you've got sort of almost an angle there between those two on the eyes. Now I want to go ahead and draw the irises and get them in place, and on both of these eyes we're going to have this sort of, the head turning away but the eyes looking back at us kind of a pose. Okay, so I've added in the irises, and the thing that really stands out to me is how much of the whites of the eye are in view in the realistic version. When we get to the manga version later on, you'll see that, well, the irises are enlarged so much more that there's just basically less space for the whites of the eye to show through. But notice the size of the pupil in relation to the rest of the iris. I would say it's about 1/5. Of the size. I guess it depends on how dilated it is. I went ahead and drew the tear duct here, this line that comes across, and when the person is turned away and looking back, that iris really lines right up to the tear duct area. So let's go ahead now and draw. Well, first I'm going to erase these guidelines because I think they're going to get in the way as we add the fold of the upper eyelid. So you can see the fold of the upper eyelid follows pretty neatly along that upper eyelash line, maybe extends a touch past it on either side. But notice really that when it comes down towards the tear duct, it descends and gets a little closer, especially over here. It gets more visibly closer to the area of the tear duct, sort of widening out as it reaches the middle of the eye. Well, I think it's time now to draw the eyebrows. Alright, so I decided to add just a little bit of the contour of the face here to make clear this three-quarter point of view. The main thing I would want you to pay attention to is the width of the eyebrows. When we get to the manga-style eyebrows, they're going to be considerably narrower than this. Of course, different people have different, thickness of eyebrows. But another thing to pay attention to is in a three-quarter point of view, the eyebrows sort of shift. They're on a different plane. The forehead causes this to shift over to the right, both of them. So I think we got everything in place. I'll be refining this a lot more later on. But let's move for now over to the manga side of things. Alright, so because we began with these much more, squarish boxes over here, of course the shape of the eyes ends up completely different. But I would also like to point out a number of other things. Perhaps most obviously, there is no tear duct. The tear duct is hardly ever illustrated in manga drawings, the vast majority of them anyway. And notice how there's fairly uniform thickness of the eyelash area all the way over toward sort of heading toward the tear duct where it sort of abruptly stops. compared to, yeah, you can still see in real life it tends to sort of trail off a little more and get very thick when seen from the side and, even from the front. More variation than what you see in the highly stylized manga version. Notice also in this particular type of Manga Eyes that I've chosen to draw, the lower eyelashes are greatly minimized compared to the upper eyelashes, which I think is sort of related to real life. Later on you're going to see me add some eyelash lines over here, but they're never going to be anywhere nearly as thickly drawn as the upper eyelash lines. And I just want to quickly point out, because manga fans may watch this video and say, "Are you saying that there's only one type of manga eye? Crilly, let me slap you across the face." No, I am not proposing that. There are tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of different ways of drawing manga eyes. For the purposes of this video, I had to choose one style that I admire, and, please forgive me, those of you who wish I would have shown a wider variety of manga eyes in this video. Well, let's go ahead and draw the shapes of the irises. Okay, so the first thing you notice is that the irises are, of course, huge, but they are also sort of ovular, oval-shaped. Not perfect circles. And one thing that struck me is that the pupils, of course, hugely dilated, are a little shifted over to one side, and I think the effect that we're getting here is that they're sort of recessed, sort of back behind the glassy eye, and as it turns in space, it sort of shifts back. It is kind of a cool effect, and especially as I, refine this illustration further, I think you're going to see what effect is achieved by having those shifted over to one side. So let's go ahead now and erase the guidelines, and I'm going to do as I did before and add the fold of the upper eyelids. All right, now one of the striking things about the fold of the upper eyelid line is that in manga style, very often it's sort of shifted over to the right. It doesn't extend all the way across, again, in this particular style, but I would say quite a number of styles use this technique of only sort of hinting at the fold of the upper eyelid in this particular area. But I noticed in some styles that there was like a secondary line nearer to the eyelash line, and so I believe that might suggest a sort of double folding of the eyelid. I'm not sure. Maybe in the comment section if you have any theories as to what explains. Maybe it's just a stylistic quirk, but anyway, I have noticed sort of multiple lines sometimes in this area. Well, it's time to do, as I did before, the eyebrows and maybe just a little bit of the contour of the face. Okay, well, the huge difference you see here, of course, is in the thinness of the eyebrows. They really are a little more than a line. In this particular style, I think you'll see sometimes a little thicker, but you're never going to see, I would say, not never, but hardly ever going to see manga eyebrows as thick as what you often see in real life. And one interesting thing to notice, not really related to the eyes, is that this contour of the face near the eyes really is heading more or less straight down due to the shape of a manga-style face, whereas in real life it really starts to curve out quite a bit for the cheekbone. Just something I noticed in passing. Well, let's return now to the realistic eyes and start to refine things a little more. All right, well, I'm going to pull out my trusty black Prismacolor colored pencil and start to add a little more detail to the eyelashes here. Now, some of you may be objecting to the amount of time-lapse in this video, and the reason I decided to do that is because I was covering the two different styles of eyes, and I knew it was going to be a hugely long video if I didn't collapse some of it. But happily, I've done a lot of videos on how to draw realistic eyes, and some of them even photorealistic, and I do believe that those videos will take you through things a little more slowly, a little less time-lapse. But I guess I can say in terms of eyelashes that when you're looking at a photograph of the eye, you get these straight up and down lines as the eyelashes are curving straight toward you. And then you get that sort of near the middle, wherever it is. It's not related to the iris, it's more related to the shape of the eye, the direction you're looking. And then they begin to curve in the opposite direction. Now, there's real uniformity in thickness of line on the manga style, whereas in real life eyelashes, they tend to thin out little by little as they get closer to the tear duct, the tear ductal region, the ovavular tear ductal region. So anyway, just you can see me dashing in these lines. I'm going to allow the eyelashes here to get quite thick. Maybe they are, maybe she's wearing a lot of mascara, or is that eyeliner? I never know the difference. There's eyeshadow, there's mascara is for the eyelashes, right? Making them darker, right? Somebody help me out here. Anyway, making them quite thick and dark over here on the far side. And you will see some manga styles that sort of acknowledge this tendency for the area over here on the far edge of the eye to be the thickest region. The style that I chose today does seem to maintain uniformity of thickness all the way across, more or less. But as I was saying, in real life, the lower eyelashes tend to be less thick, and I think, again, I think due to maybe makeup, you know, that people will apply less eyeliner to the lower eyelashes and further accentuate this difference. In any case, I'm just sort of very lightly suggesting, and then doing the same idea of, you know, straight up and down in the middle, and then beginning to curve a little. Although I do believe they sort of die off quite quickly as you near the tear duct. So hopefully that gives you some pointers on drawing eyelashes. It really is one of the most challenging parts of drawing a realistic eye, is getting the eyelashes. Notice that these eyelashes do not go right up to the edge of the actual eyelid, you know, as it touches the eye itself. They are just a little bit separated. You wouldn't want those hairs touching the actual eye, so it only makes sense. And I'm going to come in here and outline the iris itself and darken in, create a band of darkness. Ooh, that sounds like the name of Band of Darkness. With special guest, Snakebelly. What is it with me and band names? Adding a sort of a circular band of darkness all the way around this eye. Of course, it depends on different people's eyes, have different patterns to them, but very often you will see, especially with blue-eyed or paler-eyed people, that there very often is this area of darkness, and it helps to convey realism when you get that into your illustration of an eye. Now, I'm going to be adding highlights to all of these eyes, but I believe I'll hold off and do that with my beloved white gouache. Have you noticed that it's trusty black Prismacolor and it's beloved white gouache? Somehow I settled on those two different adjectives for my two different drawing products. Well, sorry to once again resort to old man time-lapse to see me through this video, but I think you've got the basic idea of how I approached darkening in this one eye, and the other eye is going to be more or less the same, so I'm going to go ahead and do that all in time-lapse. Alright, well, sorry so much of that was in time-lapse, but as I said, I've got a lot of other videos that cover drawing realistic eyes, and in those videos I wasn't having to split the time between two different drawings, so that's kind of why I decided to zip through all that. One thing that I haven't covered in any other video, I don't think, is eyebrows, and so I thought I would spend a little time talking about, you know, if you want to draw realistic eyebrows, you have to start focusing on the direction of all these individual hairs, which is you know, kind of maddening, I suppose, because there's so many of them. But you know, if you have patience and decide to take a moment to study photographs and so forth, you will be rewarded for your patience by you know, following along and creating much more authentic-looking eyebrows. Based mainly on the direction of these hairs. Now, so you can see that they're kind of near the tip going straight up, maybe beginning to fan out a little in this direction, but primarily all of the hairs are going to begin pointing off in this diagonal, to the upper left-ish kind of a direction. Can I be any less eloquent as I try to describe this? But I noticed that at least on some people's eyebrows, there is actually very faint hairs that are sort of curving in off of the forehead, joining together with the more obvious looking hairs of the eyebrow to create sort of a ridge here that's you actually see hairs coming down off of the forehead. I never really noticed this until I studied photographs, but at least in some people's eyebrows, you've got hair coming in off the top, some of these lines, and sort of joining together with hairs that are, as you would more expect, coming up from the bottom and curving off to the left. So anyway, there's the beginnings of, maybe I need to do a separate video that's all about drawing realistic eyebrows. Certainly it's time consuming, and even this one eyebrow, I'm not going to be able to do it justice during this real-time drawing session right here. So expect to see this refined a bit more as I continue working on this drawing. But I'm actually anxious to get back to the manga side of things. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll come back and finish off the realistic eyes later on. Alright, now with the manga eyes, it's really all about the irises. That's where all the focus of attention is. And so I'm going to, in real time, try to do at least one of these irises, showing my shading techniques. And I'm going to take a moment to set aside some highlight areas. As I said, with the realistic eyes, I'm probably going to do this by way of gouache, but I thought for the manga eyes, I would actually kind of rope off this area to show what parts of it are going to remain white. And now I'm pulling out the black Prismacolor to darken in this band along the edge, and interestingly, that is one thing that both of these drawings do have in common, is this band of darkness. Now, what happens is, at least in this style that I was looking at, that band of darkness gets a lot thicker on one side. Again, sort of playing into this illusion of depth that I was talking about, that you're sort of pushing the pupil back into like a recessed area behind the curved exterior of the eye. Anyway, that's my theory as to why you're going to end up with a thicker band of darkness over here on the right-hand side of this, really of both of these irises, than over here. And normally, in the human eye, the pupil is completely black, no light, basically. I guess there's nothing back there for the light to reflect off of, so we don't normally see anything back there. But I'm going to play around with a coloring technique here where the interior of the pupil is quite dark but not completely dark, and that there's some sort of variation. So I'm outlining this section here with my black Prismacolor. And then I'm going to try to sort of gradually have it go from complete darkness to sort of fading into more of a dark gray. See if we can get an interesting variation of depth. Of course, the way I'd like to shade in eyes, I like the upper area to be the darkest area of all. So we're going to have sort of two different gradations, a gradation within the pupil, and then, well, I'll go ahead and I'm going to darken in just this bottom edge of the upper eyelash line, just to sort of create a border there, and then show you how that I'm going to start really dark at the top of the eye, and then, like I said, it's sort of a gradation, and little by little I'm letting up the pressure on my colored pencil here, and as I press down a little less, it gets lighter and lighter, and we get this sort of gradient from black down to dark gray. But what I do want to do is make sure that this area right around this highlight stays nice and black to make that pop. So I'm going to go ahead and extend this area of darkness all the way over here. Area of darkness. Band of darkness. It's all about the darkness today. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and extend that over here and then have it maybe in a sort of quicker way, have that gradient, change from dark black right around the highlight to considerably lighter at the bottom. So anyway, yeah, you see me sort of playing around with different techniques here, and one of the nice things about drawing Manga Eyes is you are free to experiment and come up with your own approach, right? I mean, you're not constrained by the laws of reality or photo reference or whatever. You can just invent any style you care to come up with and experiment until you find what you like. Now, I've decided at this point that it's time to switch back to the my Dixon Ticonderoga so as to make the shading lighter. And I'm being careful not to go inside this little sort of sub-highlight that I created down here. Keep that light. But generally speaking, I want the lower area here to be the lightest part. That's just my approach. And I may go in here and sort of create also a little bit of a gradient feeling along the edge of that exterior band of darkness at the edge of the iris. So anyway, I hope that those of you who hate time-lapse enjoyed seeing me do this one iris at least largely real-time. But sadly, I do think I'm going to have to kick it into time-lapse to finish this off. Now, the truth is there's considerably less work that needs to be done. I'm going to be, taking the black Prismacolor and going over all of these initial lines, but really the iris is the only area where we really take our time with the shading. So anyway, let's go back into time-lapse. I'm going to go ahead and finish covering all these lines. You're definitely going to see me do this iris over here. I may further tweak things. And then we can come back and maybe start adding a little more shading to the realistic eyes. Alright, well, you can see how the shading here helps to convey the sense of the nose, the bridge of the nose, and that's something that you would hardly ever see in a manga illustration where they're trying to sort of de-emphasize the nose most of the time, except possibly with older characters, and sometimes you'll see, highly accentuated noses. But by and large, when we think of these youthful characters in manga, you almost never see any indication of the bridge of the nose. Well, I'm going to pull out my beloved gouache. It's getting a little old. I think I'm going to need to buy a new beloved gouache. And I'm going to add the highlights. Now, what my concept here is to try to give even the realistic eyes highlights that are in the similar locations that I used for the manga eyes. So let's see. This is sort of a moment of truth. I have to kind of add it and live with it. So I'm going to put somewhat larger highlight and then a much smaller one down here, maybe reflecting something off the ground, who knows. And then here I'll get a little fresh dip of the gouache to emulate it here. You can sort of hear me holding my breath. I only get one chance to do this. Don't blow it, Curly. Don't you dare. Yeah, there you go. That sort of replicates the highlights that we saw on the other eyes. I think it's time for me to pull back. I'll refocus the camera, and we'll have one final comparison of the two different styles. Alright, well, there's my video comparing realistic eyes with manga-style eyes, and I just want to make it clear that, this is not about sort of deciding which is better. It's not like the death match Only one of the two styles can emerge from the cage victorious. No, that is not what I'm doing this for. I don't intend for you to decide which is superior. I just like comparing different styles. Those of you who know me, you know that I love to work in different styles, and I certainly don't reject one and then choose another. That's just not the way I do things. But let me take a moment to thank anyone who has supported me by getting any of my books, like Brody's Ghost and Miki Falls, my 2 graphic novel series, as well as Mastering Manga and Mastering Manga 2, and now just out, hot off the press, is The Realism Challenge, my book for those of you who want to learn hyper-realism. I really do greatly appreciate the support of anyone who buys any of those books, but let me go ahead and lay down this pencil. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another one real soon.